Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you to We'll Bring the Popcorn, the ultimate film and TV podcast.
On today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the latest sci-fi action film Predator Badlands and Guillermo del Toro's take on Frankenstein.
Thanks to Godzilla Day on November 3rd, we got a few more details on the follow-up to Godzilla Minus One. So if you've watched this podcast at all or listened to us, you know the love that we have for that movie, of just how brilliantly it was done with such a low budget. And we've been really anticipating what he's going to do with the sequel. Well, we now know it's going to be called Godzilla Minus Zero, so we're going backwards here a little bit. And it's going to be a darker story with a larger scale. Now, they're still going to use CGI and miniatures that they did in the first film, but they also mentioned they're going to do suitmation, which is classic Godzilla of a guy in a suit, but we don't know if that means Godzilla will be suitmation, if we're getting another creature and that'll be suitmation. But it's going to be interesting to see how they mix that in with the CGI and miniatures and everything that they do, like bringing that aspect, because as much as you love Godzilla, you know that the suitmation can look rough and has looked rough in the past. So I really want to see how he handles that this time.
I think it's part of the charm, though, because, I mean, who doesn't love those old black and white, mega monster type movies? Those are just so much fun, and I think that's why we love it as much and why we loved Minus One as much as we did, because it really felt like a throwback and an ode to those old monster movies that we just have loved for so long. But it doesn't sound like they're going to be taking too long to get underway, because it sounds like filming is imminent now to get this done, because they're aiming for an end of 2026 release for this film. That's not a lot of time to get it in and get it filmed and get it moving to get it ready for the end of next year. So it sounds like they're pretty close to getting started on it right away. So I'm excited for that. I love that movie so much. I'm excited to see what he does. It sounds like the budget's going to be just a little bit bigger, but not like crazy or insane in any way. So it seems like it's keeping it well within a reasonable budget, but I'm excited to see what they do with it, and throwing in the suitmation stuff is kind of an additional ode to those old monster movies. Seems like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot. Like, give them more budget to do a little bit more with, but don't take it from being they never officially released the number, but it was always said to be under $15 million to do that film. You don't want to see it to balloon to $300 million, right, and you see it go crazy, because Joker Folie à Deux, we're looking at you there. You don't want it to see it just go insane. So, and he's, got the same director. He's handling all the visual effects with his team and everything again. So it's still got the core team behind that, which leaves me really excited. And we also got a little footage from the Godzilla ride that they're doing in Tokyo, which he directed all that stuff. And there was Mechagodzilla and other stuff in there that looked really good in that footage. So he's definitely hasn't left the Godzilla world yet. And with this sequel, it's about to film now, with that 2026 globally. So it's going to release everywhere at the same time, because, it was almost the same time when Godzilla Minus One came out, because it was Japan got it in, I believe, October or November, and then North America got it in December, but it was a staggered release. Sure. But now everybody's going to get it at the same time, and I hope it gets a $200 million box office this time.
I really hope it does too. It got a lot of buzz, especially like as it was in theaters, but even more so like when it came out and came on streaming services. A lot of people really picked up on it and fell in love with it, and really excited to see what the follow-up to that does, because it's a fantastic film, and I hope they, take it that darker route like they say they're going to, and give us a really cool story. I'm excited to see what other creatures could be involved. I know fans are already trying to figure it out and looking at logos and stuff to try to pick and choose what they see and what they can try to deduce is going to be featured in this film, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of people are excited for it. Yeah,
the logo is slightly different from the last one. So like, it's this, his girl is this monster. Can you flip it upside down? And it looks like this. Do you flip it upside down and horizontal? And it looks like this. But that's kind of the fun speculation that you get to try to figure out. But we don't have too much longer. A year from now. But as you said, a year to do a big action flick that's going to have plenty of CGI. But they showed they could do it with the first one, so I'm not worried about it coming out. And please give us that black and white cut, because go back, you can see our love for that black and white cut, of how it just added more drama and horror and everything else to it, that it really helped this film a lot.
Yeah, it's the better version. There's no debating that. Like, between the two, definitely the better version. And also, I will say, definitively again, the sub version, not the dub version, is infinitely better. So watch it in its intended Japanese version with English subtitles. Don't watch it in English dub. That's nowhere near as good of a movie in my opinion. But I mean, it's still a solid film. But give it the old black and white Japanese audio with English subtitles is definitely the way to go to watch that for sure.
Yeah, I went back and I watched the dub version, and yeah, the sub version is definitely the way.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same impact for sure. But I want to move us now into another story that's got the internet abuzz again, and it's the confirmation that Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz are officially signed back on to do the next Mummy film in the Mummy franchise. And this is going to be directed by a duo known as Radio Silence, who's done like Abigail and Scream 5 and 6. But it's their first Mummy film since 1999, so they're coming back.
Well, 2008 was when the last one they did, but Rachel wasn't in the one in 2008.
That's right. That's the way it was. But yeah, it's the first one they've done together in quite a while. Like it's got a lot of people talking. It was a very popular franchise. You know, at least the first two films were super popular. It kicked off The Rock's action movie career. Like it's a pretty important film in pop culture history. But now they're coming back to it. It's exciting.
As I mentioned, the third film, which most people say is the worst one in the franchise and very well, deserving of that. You had Jet Li pop up in it, but you had Rachel Weisz replaced by Maria Bello because she had just had a baby, didn't want to be away that long from her newborn, but she also wasn't very happy with the script. So what the Hollywood Reporter saying about it, a source is saying that they're going to ignore the third film. And this will it's going to be the fourth Mummy film, but it's basically the third Mummy film since they're going to ignore that to bring Rachel Weisz back and everything else. And I'm looking forward to this is one that you felt should have been a trilogy that was going to just be beloved for so long because the first one just came out. It was so much fun. Brendan Fraser was so charismatic and good, and that leading role, him and Rachel Weisz played off of each other really well. Just everyone played it and, had the slight bits of horror, but it's a good action comedy. But it just couldn't really nail down the sequels, as you mentioned. The Mummy Returns became more of a vehicle to get the Scorpion King solo film going off and, getting the Rock stuff going. And we know how bad the CGI was on the Scorpion King at the end of Mummy Returns. But yeah, it just felt like one of those franchises. Like you just had a smash hit with the first one, and then it just kind of failed. So I'm really interested to see what they can do. It's one of my favorites. It's one I go back to a lot, at least to the original Mummy. I don't watch the other two quite as often, but that first Mummy is such an incredibly fun. If I just need a good laugh and I need just a good adventure, I put that on, and I'm excited to see what they can do now. It's probably going to revolve around their son, which a lot of fans are already fan casting the David Cornsweet. They want him to be the son because they said he looks like both of them. Well, maybe he will if he's not too busy with Superman because, he's got Man of Tomorrow, the film and everything coming up. But I really want to see what they do. The biggest thing I don't want to see them do is bring it back and kill off any of the original characters. That's a bad point of a lot of these that are coming back after so long is that their first instinct is to kill off someone from the original cast so you can add some drama.
That, and it just feels like that feels like a cheap way to take it out and move it forward. It's like, oh, we're going to bring these people back to get your eyeballs. It's smart marketing. It's a smart marketing, but it's just cheap storytelling, in my opinion. If they get oh, this person's coming back for the first time in 20 years to this franchise, and then they're dead in the first 10 minutes of the film, and you're just kicking off a whole new generation of, people to take on these roles. It's kind of cheap. That's more of a horror thing, I think, than anything else. But I hope they don't go that route. But man, just seeing those two together on screen again will be a lot of fun. Like I said, that first original Mummy movie is so good. It's classic. I agree with you. I go back and watch it fairly regularly too. Mummy Returns wasn't terrible, but it didn't have the same magic as the first one. Still a solid movie, but that first one is just so good. And it's, I can't say how happy I am that Brendan Fraser's career has had the resurgence in the last 5 or 6 years that it's had. And just really excited to see, him come back to a franchise that really made him a mega star. This was a real breakout, huge role for him. And he'd had some roles previously, but this was one of the first big blockbuster films he was a part of. And it's cool to see him come back to the franchise.
And we also know because of the Mummy and George of the Jungle, that's where kind of the physical issues and surgeries and other stuff that he had. So it's going to be curious to see what type of shape he decides that he's going to get into because he is older, but also he went through so much trauma because he was expected to be this ripped, big action star, and it took a toll on him mentally and physically. So, however way he shows up, I think just the chemistry between him and Rachel were so fantastic then, and I think they're going to fall right back into place. And like, I hope it's a lot of fun. Like we got the directors who have done mostly horror. I mean, they've done Scream, which is comedy horror, but you're talking The Mummy, which has light horror elements, but it's mostly action comedy. So I really want to see how they handle doing maybe a little less horror and more of the action comedy stuff. You've got to let Brenden and Rachel really, gel and go with each other with that, which would be that action comedy. And yeah, Brenden or Rachel die, we riot.
Absolutely. You can't have that. That can't be the starter for this film. But I'm excited, man. It's so cool to see these guys back into it and see what they do. We'll see if the movie's any good or not, but we'll get to at least see them on screen together again, which is a really cool thing.
And I think it's probably going to be a big box office hit if they do it right. If you get us seeing him back as Rick and her as Evie, and we see that really good, that it's potential to have a big box office.
Yeah, the chemistry for them was insane in that film, so we'll see what happens when they come back to it. If they can get David Cords to it, that would be really cool too. But we'll see what the plot for it looks like.
So we're going to wrap up here with a few quick hits. So we have Kpop Demon Hunters 2 is officially moving forward, getting that sequel, and it's coming out in 2029. So if you don't know much about animation, it takes a lot of time. It's the only thing about trying to capitalize on something as popular as Kpop Demon Hunters is, it's going to take a while to get something out. Even if you went to a cheaper studio to try to knock something out really quickly using the assets you had, it's still going to take a couple years. I mean, famously, it's been talked about with like The Simpsons and others, like you're looking at a year or two for every season to be made. So when they're debuting one season, they're already working on the next one because they have to have that lead time. So it's probably disappointing to some that it's, 4 years away, but it takes quite a while to get animation done and get it done right.
Yeah, and it feels like it's crazy long. It's like a crazy long time, and it is. And you'd hope they could turn that around, but yeah, that's the whole point of animation. If you want it to be good, you got to let it do its thing. You got to let it cook. Like we've been notorious for wanting the next, Spider-Verse animation film to come out, but that takes time to do too.
It's been 37 years.
It feels like it. It's been forever. You just cut to that meme of the old lady that says it's been 84 years, but it's kind of what it feels like, and it's going to be a long wait for them, but kudos to them for following up on it. You knew it was coming. You knew it was happening, as successful as it was. They got Grammy nominations for Golden out of it, for Song of the Year. Like, a Netflix film getting Song of the Year recognition at the Grammys is huge. It just goes to speak of how popular this film franchise has become and how mega popular those songs were. Like, who would have thought when you watched it, like, yeah, this was catchy and really good, and we really loved it, but the impact that it's had in pop culture is insane. Like, it's huge, and it's crossed over into the music landscape, too, of getting Grammy nominations. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it got snubbed for Record of the Year, but it got a ton of nominations and got everything there. It made Ije the first Korean-American woman to be nominated for a Grammy and everything. And I hope they sweep and win everything because it's that underdog story. Like, you had a movie that they may or may not thought it was going to be very big, and it just exploded. This is a brand new, original, fresh franchise, and it just did gangbusters. And you love to see that something original is doing that well. And yeah, good luck to them during the Grammys because I don't know how you're going to beat them this year with just the juggernaut that it's been.
Yeah, and it's up against like literally a who's who list of artists for Grammys. I mean, they're up against Bruno Mars, Billie Eilish, like mega popular like mainstream artists. So just to be even in the conversation is super cool. So kudos to them for getting nominated.
Yeah, still speaking about Netflix, we have a reality competition series based on the Overcooked video game coming by Netflix and A24. This could be a lot of fun if you never played the game. I still have this really funny story when me and my brother were playing it. So we were at a level that we were split on multiple opposite sides and stuff, and I had a fire. And again, this was probably about 2 a.m. in the morning that we were playing this. I had a fire on my side and the fire extinguisher on my brother's side. So I yelled at him, "Hey, I need the fire extinguisher over here so I can put out this fire." And all of a sudden I have a fish flying over to me. And like, again, 2 a.m. We'd been playing this for a while. I just lost it. Like, absolutely lost it because I asked for a fire extinguisher and I got a fish. I'm like, I don't think I can put the fire out with this, John. Like, can you give me the fire? He couldn't play anymore because he was crying so hard that he threw me a fish instead of the fire extinguisher.
A fish and not a fire extinguisher. That's funny. That game is chaos personified. Like, there's a point. There's a probably good reason why it's becoming a reality competition series, because that game is crazy. I've played it a couple times and just stress doesn't even begin to describe it, because you have to work together and communicate to be successful in that game. And it's hard. It's a hard thing to get down, but a ton of fun, but very stressful game. So it's pretty cool that they're making a competition out of that. I'll have to check that out for sure.
It's going to be interesting to see how they do it with real people and stuff. Is it this side has this and maybe dry ingredients, this side has the wet ingredients. You got to figure out, like, you may not have an easy way to send it to each other, or are they on a platform where you're making everything move? Because there's like ship levels where stuff is, swaying back and forth. Like, there's a lot that they could do to try to sabotage them in this, but they're also cooking and using knives and oils and other stuff in real life. There's got to be a limit on how far they can go, because you can't start a real, fire, and you can't have oil splashing over people cooking. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they can make this work in live action. But if they do it right, it could be a lot of fun, because you've got to embrace the chaos of the game if you're doing a game on it. If it's a regular standard cooking show, then what are you doing?
Right. There's going to be some wacky elements involved in that for sure, because you have to, but definitely they'll have safety baked into that too, because there's liability issues and all that other stuff. But it's got the potential to be something really fun and entertaining. I'm here for it.
And we also got final confirmation that Gremlins 3 is moving forward. You have Chris Columbus, who wrote the original Gremlins. He also did Home Alone, the first two Harry Potters, Mrs. Doubtfire. He's been behind a ton of hits through the 90s and 2000s. He is co-writing and directing the third Gremlins film. That's awesome. You got Steven Spielberg back on board to produce it, and it's coming out in November of 2027. So yet another big franchise. I mean, it was big for when we were kids, but the Netflix animated series has done really well. So this could be another potential big revival. And if we get The Mummy also out in 2027, we don't really have a timeline on that yet, but we could have a couple new old franchises coming back in the next couple years now.
2027, as we've already said, is going to be absolutely insane. I don't think we're going to sleep in 2027. It might be 2 movies every single week.
Just set up a cot in the
we
theater.
may not watch a single second of TV with the way movies are going to dominate in 27. It's going to be insane, but I'm here for it. We got content for days to come, but that is a stacked year for sure. But yeah, I'm excited about this. Chris Columbus is an amazing director behind some of my favorite movies, and just to see him back and taking on the Gremlins franchise again is a pretty cool thing. I'm excited to see what they could do with it. Hopefully it's good. We do have that concern about stuff that was popular in the 80s trying to come back now and do something with it and see if it holds up today. We'll see. It's to be determined, but the people behind the magic are back, and that's more than I can hope for when it comes to reviving something like this. It's people who are already knowing of these characters and what to do with them, and we'll see how they make it in 2027, so I'm excited for that.
Because as we mentioned in another episode, Gremlins was one of the ones that caused the rating of PG-13 to be created, because it came in the original Gremlins was PG, but I guess it was classified as family horror. Like there was, but it had horror elements to it and everything. So it's interesting to see how much into the horror they're going to go. But I really hope they stick to practical puppetry and animatronics and stuff with it, and not making the Gremlins and Gizmo and everything be CGI, because you lose some of the heart and charm. We've seen that so many times with a lot of things that come back and they replace the characters with CGI when they were puppets, and it just doesn't have the same feel.
They have to get Howie Mandel back as Gizmo. That's a non-starter for me. It won't be the same without Howie as Gizmo. It blew my mind when I knew that was him that did that voice, and it was just crazy, but I'm excited for that. They have to get Howie on board.
Get Howie, practical puppetry and animatronics. Like
you're on a solid foundation at that point.
And lastly here, Keanu Reeves is not done with action films as of yet. He's got a new franchise he's jumping into, which is by Deadpool director Tim Miller. He's got a film called Shiver coming out. So this is A film that follows a smuggler who gets stuck in a time loop after being double-crossed while on a mission at sea. So we got Keanu Reeves, action, Groundhog Day. I'm in.
Yeah, and his knees notwithstanding, he's infamous about how shooting films like John Wick are bad for his knees. Well, he's right back into action films again, so we'll see what he's involved with that. Sounds like a fun premise, but it's Keanu Reeves. You don't have to sell me too hard on going to see anything he's in. He's absolutely phenomenal. I love all his work, and we'll see what that looks like for him.
And you're setting it at sea, so is that potentially the entire movie takes place on a boat, and you're going to loop it that way? It's when you set something in a single location, it becomes really interesting how you can make it feel different and fresh each time. And if you're doing a Groundhog Day like loop, you've got to really make that, all right, well, I guess he's learning where everyone's moving from and what he can do. And it's going to be interesting to see how they do it if it is kind of a single location shoot like that.
So it says he's a smuggler who gets double-crossed at sea. Is this the John Wick Pirates of the Caribbean crossover that we're expecting out of this kind of thing? Like
mixed with a little Bourne, because he starts off floating in the sea.
Is it a little piratey? Like what are we looking at when he's talking about smugglers? Because that could mean any number of things. But I'm interested to see what the actual tone of the film and what the visuals look like for that, because that could be very interesting.
Do we get Keanu going, look at me, I'm the captain now?
Doing it in his deadpan delivery would be freaking hilarious, but I'd be here for that too. But it's exciting to see him, back in a role like that, and we'll see what that looks like.
It's interesting he does have another action film coming out, because there is talk that somehow he's going to return for John Wick 5, and you have potential another Matrix film being talked about, but it hasn't said if it's a remake or a reboot or if it's going to continue on with Keanu and Neo. So he's still got a decent amount of action ahead of him, but we'll see how much longer, because he also has Berserker. So he has his comic series he wrote. There's going to be an animated and a live action series and film and stuff that's done from that. So that's potential for a lot more action for him. So yeah, he better got robotic knees or something put in there.
He's going to be a cyborg by the time all of this is over. But I'm here for all of that. He's a phenomenal actor, and really excited to see what this movie looks like.
We are now partnered with Dubby Energy. Dubby is a clean energy drink to give you focus with no crash or jitters like other energy drinks.
Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It also features 0 calories, no sugar, no fillers, and no artificial dyes.
From Dragonade and S'mores to Push and Punch and Galaxy Grenade, Dubby has a wide range of flavors for you to choose from.
Use code WBTP to save 10% off your Dubby Energy orders, and look for a direct link in the audio and video descriptions. So I want to move us now into our first movie review of the week. We have Predator Badlands from 20th Century Studios. This is following the story of Dek, a young predator who's from the Yautja clan. He's trying to prove himself. He wants to become, part of his clan, and part of that is, securing a prey and, going through a successful hunt and coming back alive and proving you're a man. And he's kind of known as the run of the litter, for lack of a better term. He's kind of this outcast on his own clan, trying to, prove himself. He's got his brother who's this really strong warrior that he's trying to prove himself with. And his brother is like, trying to bring out the toughness in him to, see if he's truly worthy of being part of the Yautja clan, and, trying to get him to toughen up so he's capable of, going on a hunt and proving himself. And, Dek, being the ambitious young warrior that he is, goes for like he goes to pick out his prey, because you have to go to another planet and, find a trophy and bring it back. And when you do that, you're part of the clan. And his brother is trying to actively get him to go after a weaker one, just to be like, go ahead and prove your point, go do your thing. And he picks this impossible monster that's never been killed. Nobody's ever been able to defeat it on this crazy planet. And his brother's like, yeah, maybe don't do that. That's not the one you want to do.
That's fine.
And it kind of sets off a chain of events from there. And I don't want to spoil too much of like what actually happens from there, but he goes and sets off on this journey to kind of prove himself. And he winds up going to this planet. And that's really where the whole story for this entire thing kicks off.
Yeah, because you get him going to this planet, Jenna, where everything's trying to kill you. It's the trees and every creature, the grass. Like, there's nothing nice about this planet. It all wants to kill you. And on his journey here, he ends up coming across a synth played by Elle Fanning, which is Thea. And she's a very, I'm going to say, it's almost like C-3PO type of synth.
Yeah.
Like she's very humorous and very just compared to having a Predator. You have this very bubbly personality synth, but it works so well. They work so well off of each other. But I had a ton of fun with this. Like, this is not your standard regular Predator film. Like, when most people think of Predator, they're thinking about the original with Arnold Schwarzenegger and what, 87?
Yeah.
You're looking at that original. The rest of them, you're kind of mixed and muddled on, and even with Alien versus Predator and all that. But this is a very different Predator film. It's all about the Yautja, about the Predator, who's, as you said, he's weaker. He hasn't earned all the gadgets. You know, he's trying to, by killing this big prey, he'll get his cloaking device. And, you know, they earn from kills and everything they do different parts of their armor. So he's still very basic. He's got a helmet. He's got a little bit of armor. He's got his sword and his bow and stuff. But he's trying to earn everything. And I have to give it up to Demetrius, who played Dek, because all of his lines were in a made-up language. They created a full Yautja language, and he had to deliver his entire performance using this made-up language, and he did a fantastic job in there, especially because he's wearing a suit, but you also got CGI to the face, so you can make it move and everything else. But I think he did a solid job. Elle Fanning did a solid job. Like, it's a limited cast. You have no humans. You have a bunch of synths that, of course, look human, but you have synths and you have alien creatures, and that's it. And that's kind of how they can get away with a lot of violence in here, is because there's no red blood. You get green blood and other stuff like that, and it did pack a lot of action and a lot of violence into this film.
For sure. It's heavy on the action, heavy on the story in this, and you get basically Dek going through this journey of, he's very much like I would almost call him a Drax-like type creature, like in his mannerisms and the way he thinks about things and the way he moves is very Drax-like, not quite as heavy on the humor side necessarily as the way like Drax has been portrayed in the MCU, but that's kind of one of the closer comparisons I could make to him as a character. Is very Drax, like very, very literal. There's not a lot of subtlety or humor. It's just like, you know, Elle's like, I need you to help me find my leg. So when he finds her, she's like cut in half. Like, she's been separated from her legs. Obviously, she's synthetic, so that's not that big of a deal. She can still function and do all the things she needs to do, but her objective is to try to convince Dek to take her with him so she can get her legs back and become like a full synth again. And, you know, they play up a lot of humor in that, but Dek is very much like, I'm a predator. I have to do this on my own. I don't need help. I don't want any help. And she just basically is like, just consider me a tool to help you. And he instead of just calling her Elle, he calls her tool. Like, you are a tool.
You're a tool.
I will use you. You are a tool. Like, it's just very primitive and very funny, like the relationship they two have, because you do see Dek kind of growing a little bit and gaining a little bit of, not quite empathy, but empathetic traits to some things, a little bit of a conscience, if you will, like throughout a lot of this, instead of just being the very primitive, the mission is the only thing that matters kind of thing that you get from Predators a lot. You get a little bit more human, almost a little more humanity to him, a little more empathy, but it's a really cool story. I agree. I had a lot of fun watching this.
You actually get a Predator cracking a joke in here. Like, there's not many for the Predator. Most of the humor and stuff comes from Elle Fanning, and because she plays a dual role. She's Thea, but she's also Tessa. So Thea is kind of more of this helper synthetic that's supposed to be doing a lot of the research and you know, looking around the planet and categorizing and learning about the creatures, while Thea's your military leader. She's the one that's out there fighting and protecting and doing everything with the other synths. She's running things, and it's an interesting dynamic you have with her playing two of the same synth but very differently. Like he said, Thea's very bubbly and smiling and cracking jokes and like really almost like a childlike innocence to her, while Tessa is very straight, doesn't smile, is just straight up what Mother's mission is. That's what I have to do no matter what. And she played it very well. She played both of those really well. And it was really interesting that Elle was strapped to Demetrius's back. Like, they created a rig where she was wearing like green pants and stuff. And, you filming inside of a soundstage, but she was strapped to his back with a little extra help. And, that had to be hard to perform some of the stuff in there with her strapped to the back, but they went to try to make it feel as, I guess, organic with each other as possible because, you've got a synth and you've got a predator and you're trying to figure out how does this work? And he makes her a tool and he makes sure she knows you're a tool. I don't get help. You're not helping me. You're a tool that, I use, you don't use me. And he actually gets upset at one time because it feels like she's trying, when she's trying to use him, she's like, no, I use tools. Like tools don't use me. And I think it's so different than what we've had before. Most of the story revolves around him trying to kill this Callus. So this is a creature that nobody has ever returned from seeing. They've got a little bit of information on it, but they don't know why it's unkillable. But before he even gets to that creature, he meets another small alien creature it's kind of part Grogu, part E.T. and Gollum kind of all mixed together there. And it was
part of Boo.
Part of Boo. It's very interesting what they did there, but it plays a part to the story and everything else. But the CGI at times can be a little rough, but it never really took me out of it. And, for the purists who want a Predator movie, this may not fully appeal to you, but if you can give it a try, I think a ton of people are going to have fun with it because, this is Dan Trachtenberg's third Predator film. Prey was his take on the standard formula for Predator. So you got to have kind of a classic Predator in that. And then Killer of Killers, the animated anthology, kind of mixed in more lore that we have these arenas where they're collecting champions and doing all that. And then we have this one where it's about a young predator trying to earn the right to be called a member of the clan and get the rest of his armor and his suit and everything else and actually be a predator. And it's all about his journey on this foreign alien planet. And again, it was a ton of fun. This is one that I could say I could go back and rewatch over and over again because it's jam-packed full of action. It starts first 2 minutes in with a battle sequence, and it's probably got the most action, full straight action that we've had in a Predator film ever. Because most of the Predator films are about him stalking others and maybe one attack here and then he's hiding or another attack, but the attacks may take 2 or 3 minutes. Most of this movie is action.
Yeah, it's very heavy on it, and they do a good job of mixing a lot of that stuff in. You got the good mix of the humor. You got the mix of the action. There's, the tie-in with the Weyland-Yutani Corporation here with these synths that, also if you go back in archives, the first thing I think of is we just recently talked about Alien Earth, and it's heavily focused on, it's got the Weyland-Yutani influence in there too. So you've got these corporations that are through lines of all of these interconnected universes, which we're starting to see a little bit more of. Especially with the entity like Killer of Killers, I think Dan Trachtenberg is trying a little harder to bring all of these things together, and he may be somebody that helps, propel that story forward with what he's doing here. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff mixed in here, man. There's a really fun, action sequence towards the end of the film when it comes to the climax and them trying to basically escape while Deck is still very much trying to get his trophy to go back, and that even ends up in a very satisfactory way, but it ends with the possibility of setting up a future for this franchise too. This may not be the only venture into not only this character but the whole Predator universe, right? It kind of sets up some very interesting possibilities moving forward if they choose to go that route.
Yeah, and that one kind of last action sequence, without going into it, felt in one part with a machine that's used, felt very alien. If you go back to the original the aliens and the loaders and the stuff that's being used, you have something like that. A little wink and a nod. We have a feeling that Dan is probably going to be one that's going to lead up an Alien versus Predator film. But yeah, you have potential for another film with Deck here, but he's hinted that because of Killer and Killers, he might be willing or able to bring back others, because originally he wanted Naru from Prey to be in this film, but he said as he developed the story and stuff, it didn't make sense to bring her into it. But he's also had conversations with Arnold Schwarzenegger about coming back as Dutch, because the guy's almost 80, so we'll have to see exactly what happens there. But Killer of Killers definitely sets up this potential for a large universe where he could bring anyone and anything back and mix in any type of alien race or anything else he wants. So I'm excited what the potential could be here with Dan's Predators, because this was unique. This was different. It's not the status quo, but it's a lot of fun. And I don't want to go too deep into it, but I really enjoyed the organic Predator suit that we end up seeing in the film, because you can laugh at it and stuff, but it actually makes sense to what he's trying to do. And it was kind of a unique way to bring that version of the Predator into this film, while also keeping it grounded to what they're trying to do in the film, of showing a guy or a Yacha who's, not quite where the 87 Predator or any of the other Predators are. He's still very young. He doesn't know the basis of it, but he also got to use a bunch of new interesting tools with the grappling hooks. And I wanted to see the bow and arrow get used, but spoiler, that really didn't get used. You got to see it in promos and stuff, but it wasn't a weapon that really got used. And I wanted to see how that actually would work and how he could use it.
Yeah, but it was heavily focused on just the sword and some of his other elements that he gets to use, because he does get separated from some of that early on when he lands on this planet that is actively trying to kill him. It was such a cool planet. Like, the way he put the planet together was really neat. I love the grass that was like almost razor blade-esque that he couldn't run through, and kind of you had to get creative with how he got around. And it was pretty neat how they incorporated all the elements of the planet into the story too. Like you said, everything's actively trying to kill you at that point, and the danger, the threats were nonstop throughout the film, and it kept it moving at a pretty solid pace for a movie that's roughly almost 2 hours in runtime. That felt like a very brisk view when it came time to watching it. It didn't linger on anything. It kept moving at a nice brisk pace, and it told a good story. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I think it did well with the story. Like, it's a basic premise, but most of Predators are. Like, you're setting up that, he's the runt of his clan. He's got to do this hunt to prove his worthiness, or basically he's dead. Yeah. Like, the Yacha tribe does not tolerate weakness. So if you're shown to be weak, it's just, we kill you off and we go on. Right. Like, it's no hard feelings, but you're weak, you got to die.
No hard feelings, but you got to go permanently. Yeah. It's kind of savage in that instance. But yeah, I mean, it's about him finding his strength and him doing what he has to do to get his trophy to earn his place in his tribe. And I got to say, the end sequence in the film, awesome. Especially when he, spoiler alert, he gets his freaking trophy. I don't think we're really spoiling anything too heavy there, but he kind of gets to go back and throw it in his dad's face, who's kind of like the leader of the Yacha tribe that he's trying to prove his worth to, and that ends in a very satisfying. Everything
boils down to daddy problems with everything.
It's just always dad. Dads do better. Do better, dads. But no, it's a really solid story, man. I had a lot of fun with it. High rewatchability for this, for sure. A ton of fun, a lot of action. If you're looking for a good action with some humor and some heart built into it, definitely one to check out for sure. Like,
yeah, it's a great one to go to theaters to see, because even if you just want to turn your brain off to all what lore there is to the Predator franchise across 6 or 7 films now,
quite a bit.
But they all kind of did their own thing, and this does its own thing too. And it is the farthest out there from any Predator that's been done, because you are focusing on the Predator being kind of a hero in the end. We've never really had that before. The Predators have always been the bad guy. So, which also sets up an interesting way to go forward, and potential tying in with Alien versus Predator, if they go that route, is that we have a hero Predator that we can do. Is he going to change things for how the Predators act and how they hunt and go after other people? Because now he's got a connection to this planet and to these synths, mainly Thea, but he's got all these different connections now, and we see some growth and some change in him, that he's not going to be kind of the same Predator that his dad and his brother and everybody on his, Yacha Prime is, that he's kind of his own thing. So it sets up a potential future that still could continue into a quite different way than we've had before, and I'm actually really looking forward to that.
For sure. It's an interesting change of direction for characters that we're so used to seeing portrayed in a negative light as villains, but that's the whole fun part about when you get into Alien versus Predator type stuff. Who's the bad guy and who's the good guy? Are there no good guys? Are there no bad guys? Like, what's the impetus of this? And you kind of turn that on its head a little bit when you get a predator that you're actively rooting for now, and you're rooting for Deck to be successful in this film, and you have what could potentially be the kickoff of a good hero's journey for the Predators, and we'll see what that looks like moving forward, and if they continue in this space beyond this. We'll see what the plans forward are moving forward, but it definitely set up some fun, interesting stuff should they choose to go full into, like, the timeline crossovers and all that stuff that you kind of set up in Killer of Killers. Like, do we start getting some more of that crossover? Do we see Arnold Schwarzenegger come back as Dutch for the first time in almost 40 years? It'll probably be 40 years at that point by the time we get around to the next Predator film, if there is another one. So that's a long time, and will be interesting to see what they do.
Can we get Dutch and Deck doing the classic
Have
hand?
You have to.
They just both of them flexing and hitting each other with that handshake. Like, all right, we're helping each other. Because, I mean, if they do bring in Naru and bring in Dutch and others, could it be for, like, Alien versus Predator? Is it actually going to be, like, all the champions and the Predator versus the Xenomorphs and stuff? Could it go that route? Like, there's a lot of potential that he's set up, and I'll say he's been 3 for 3 so far. Like, with Prey, you got the classic, but with a twist because it's taking place back in the Native American times and stuff, and then you got quite a different twist with the animated anthology we got earlier this year that sets up a lot of different paths they can go, and even Predator Badlands here sets up a really interesting future that it does feel like this character's in good hands of doing something new and unique. If you just continue to do the same Predator over and over again, yeah, you can have a little fun with it, but it's probably the majority of the reason why most of the Predator films are not that good is because they just try to do the regular thing over and over again in a slightly different way, and it can get a little tiring. This was a fresh, interesting take on the Predator that I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, and we'll see how successful it is at the box office. We'll see if it's got any type of staying power. Our showing in particular wasn't the best attended, but we kind of went at it off time a little bit than what we were normally used to seeing a movie at, a little earlier than normal than we would, but we'll see what the box office holds up for it. There's not a ton of big competition in theaters right now. I know we're getting ready to go into some really heavy, like, popular stuff that's getting ready to come out. Obviously, with the big juggernaut that is Wicked getting ready to come out in another week or two. Like, that's another big one that could hold off from that from being long-term successful, but we'll see what it looks like for now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if it has any legs to continue with. You've got The Running Man, and Now You See Me, Now You Don't, and you got Wicked, and just going into December where you have Avatar, and that juggernaut. So hopefully it is able to have a decent little run here before it meets Wicked, because Wicked is going to just dominate every screen as soon as it comes out in 2 weeks here.
Yeah, for sure. But Predator Badlands is the next action film set up in the Predator franchise. It's a ton of fun. It's a visual spectacle as well. This planet that Deck goes on his journey on is gorgeous. It's very well done. The action is stellar. It is top-notch. It's got some humor mixed into it. And you get kind of a different take on the Predators here as more of a hero's journey that we don't really see. We really haven't seen it up to this point in the Predator franchise, where you get this real protagonist type Predator that, you really find yourself rooting for. But I got to say, man, I had a ton of fun watching this. I'm giving Predator Badlands a solid 8. Like, I had a really good time. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but this might be one of my favorite Predator entities that we've had in all the entries we've had so far. I've really got a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, I'll be giving Predator Badlands an 8 as well. It was a ton of fun. It's something I can see having a lot of replayability, that I wanted to kind of see it again right after I got out of it because it was so much fun. There was more humor than I was expecting. It can go a little slapsticky almost at times, but it still worked. Like, they kind of dangled on that line a little bit of, are we taking the humor a little too far? Is it staying right in there? But Al Fanning was fantastic. Demetrius was great as Deck. Like, you don't have a huge cast in here, but what they did well. The action sequences were big, bold, a ton of fun to watch. But yeah, it was one of the best Predator films we've had in a while, because it dared to take it in a new direction and do some new things and give us a different look at the Yautja Predator creatures, and it was just so enjoyable to watch.
I really dug it. It was so much fun. Definitely a high rewatchability. I agree with that for sure. But action sequences were on point. Like I said, visually stunning. Like, CG in a lot of cases look really good. I mean, some places with CGI, as heavy as it is, it can look a little wonky, and in some places it does. But yeah, definitely more humor and heart than I was expecting out of this too, because you expect that like darker, more serious tone in most of the film, and there's a decent amount of that in it, but they definitely leaned into the humor in this a little more than I anticipated it would. It was a lot funnier than I was anticipating when I got into the film. Like, I wasn't expecting to have some of the chuckle moments that I did in this, and we got those in there, and I think it helped. I think the levity in it really helped tell a more cohesive story than just a straightforward action run and gun kind of movie that you can kind of expect from a Predator franchise. But this was a lot of fun. I got a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, and it really was a unique way to tell the story. Like, we haven't had Predator done in this way before. I would love to see, and maybe in the future, that we get a throwback kind of joke to the original Predator costume, which was Jean-Claude Van Damme was supposed to be wearing, that looked almost Mantis-like. I'd love to see Dan with kind of how he's trying to interconnect everything. Give us a throwback to that creature at some point so we can see how ridiculous that would have looked. But you could also CGI up and make it look so much better than that rubber foam suit that he was wearing in the little bit of footage that we have of that Mantis suit. I'd love to see that come back in the Predator franchise, especially if you're introducing a lot more humor into this universe.
Sure.
Have some fun with that.
You definitely could for sure. But Predator Badlands is in theaters now. Go check it out. Come to our YouTube comments. Come to our Discord. Let us know what you think of the film. We'd love to have that conversation with you, and definitely one that we got a lot of enjoyment out of, and we think you will too.
Yeah, so over on Netflix, we have Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. So it got a limited theatrical run. Unfortunately, we didn't get it anywhere near us, but you know, if you enjoy Guillermo del Toro, you know the takes that he takes on things, and this is faithful to the most part to the Frankenstein story, but he makes plenty of changes because we're getting a different look at the monster. He's always been one with his monsters and everything else. There's some sympathetic to it that you're trying to see, well, it's not always their fault, or they could be more than just a creature and everything in here. And I will say I enjoyed it. Like, it tells the basics of it. Starts off in the Arctic where this ship is, you know, stuck in the ice. They can't get out. They see an explosion and they go over and check it out. And it's Victor Frankenstein is hurt and injured. And then the monster shows up. And, you know, we get Victor back on the ship telling his story to the crew. But we basically get this movie in kind of two halves. You have the first half is Victor's story from his perspective and how he feels about it. And then the second half of it is from the creature story. And overall, I think this was a solid tale. It's definitely different. It changes some of the relationships. It changes the overall feeling and acting of the creature. I mean, the creature does look a bit off-putting, but he's not as grotesque and horrific as others have been, because they're supposed to be like, you know, he didn't ask to be created. It was Victor who's, after his mother's death, wants to try to cheat death. Like, he blames his father. It makes his father a bit more abusive and cold to him. But he sees his father as like the greatest doctor out there, and he couldn't cheat death for his mother. And so now he's made it his life's mission to try to solve death.
Yeah, and it's kind of the crux of his character, and you got to show some love here to Oscar Isaac, who plays Victor Frankenstein incredibly well. Like, he really dives into and gets into the headspace of this really manic doctor who's just refuses to take no for an answer, kind of just like saying, you know, no, like, death isn't the end. Death doesn't have to be a final sentence here, and you can kind of come back from it, right? And you see the grotesque way that he kind of works towards like putting things together and showing that, you know, through the right amount of science and the application of science, which, as you all know, that far back in time that these stories takes place, people were very religious, and, you know, it was heavy emphasis that, you know, anything that isn't God's will is an abomination, that kind of thing. And you just can't, like, you can't get past that for so many people. And he's the guy that's like, no, I have ways, because of my brilliance in my scientific understanding, that I can bring people back to life, and it's permanent. You're immortal. You can't die. Like, this is a permanent thing as long as you have this energy source and, you know, the right combination of things to work, and you can make it. You're not going to necessarily be yourself, but you can be put together through elements of other people. Like it was crazy. It's a fun take. I gotta say that, the three people that do the most heavy lifting in this movie are, Oscar Isaac as Victor Frankenstein, obviously Jacob Elordi as the creature, who was, and in my opinion, he's brilliant in this movie. Like he's fantastic in his take on this. And you also got Mia Goth as Elizabeth, who is basically in this weird relationship where she's marrying Victor's brother, but Victor's in love with her because she has kind of a similar scientific, type of mind and thinking and approaching things, but she's not in love with him. And it's kind of this, this tragic story that, for Victor anyway, that the woman that he loves doesn't love him, kind of thing. And it's a really interesting take on it. And I personally love this movie. Like I think the way they told the story was brilliant in two parts, and just kind of giving a little more humanity and a little more thoughtfulness to the creature. Because, more often than not, you see Frankenstein portrayed as just this mindless creature who's just violent for the sake of violence kind of thing. And you get a lot more layered creature here with Jacob Elordi. And he's so good in this. And you get to see the journey that he goes on to learn to be able to communicate, and just the way that he learns about life and who it's a really interesting take that we hadn't really seen before. But this is a really fun story. I got a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, because in the original story, Elizabeth is Victor's wife, or Victor's fiance, that plays a big part with the monster. But yeah, and here they decided to make her the fiance of his brother, who kind of dislikes Victor in a way. Like this is definitely about looking at Victor like he is the monster. He is the creature. He is the monster. And it doesn't shy away from some violence, graphic violence or things, especially because you get Victor, and it also shows just how he is almost inhuman in a way. He's going to a hanging, and he's looking at the guys before they get hung to be like, yeah, not you. Just go up and die already. And like, okay, this one's got a strong back. I'm going to take him. And like he's picking out
pretty morbid
bodies before they're even dead, and you get like there's been a war and a big battle, and he's just siphoning through the bodies to pick like, oh, find me a head that's intact, and like just of how he almost doesn't really care about life because he's so obsessed with death. And it touches on that, especially like when he meets Elizabeth. Even though you've switched that it's his brother's fiance, you've still got that, well, she's kind of bringing out a little bit of the humanity in me, because for once I'm actually interested in life than death. But he's still very, very much into death, because again, it starts off early on that he's like on trial to be talk about what he's been doing for his funding. And he brings half of a cadaver that he shows that he can bring to life, and everyone's just horrified and like, okay, what is this going on? Which I got to give it up to Guillermo for doing so much practical effects. Like there's some CGI that's mixed in with it, but you can tell there's puppetry and animatronics and other stuff that's done with it, which if it was full CGI, there would have been a lot more problems with it. I will say I wasn't fully into, I love Christoph Waltz, but his additional character, Heinrich, he wasn't in the original story. He's added to this as kind of an arms dealer who is the financer of all of Victor's stuff. Now, there's a deeper story on why he wants to, finance Victor, but he also is added as Elizabeth's uncle, so there's kind of a tie all around. I don't think it added too much to it. I think Christoph was a little underused in that, because he's a brilliant actor.
Fantastic, yeah.
But I think it was kind of underused, because as soon as we get to an interesting point, then everything shifts and changes for it, that I don't know if you exactly needed him. And I get that you're trying to throw in kind of two different elements, where you're figuring out how he gets finance and how he's able to get this tower and get all the stuff that he needs to do it. But then it also adds in trying to look again at Victor's humanity. Like, how will he approach someone else in need that needs something out of him, and how he does it all. And I don't want to say he shouldn't have been in the movie, but it just didn't work as well as I hoped it would, because again, I love Christoph so much.
Yeah, it wasn't the best integration of a new character into this story, honestly, but you can put Christoph Waltz in anything, and he will elevate a film. And in the brief time that we get him in the movie, like he does a fine job in it. I don't necessarily think he added enough gravitas to the film to really elevate it that much, but that's not necessarily his fault here. He was good with the direction that they gave him, but this is definitely more of a Victor and creature type story because you get Elizabeth in here that's, kind of the moral, tries to be a little bit of a moral compass for Victor a little bit, like what you're doing is wrong and I'm trying to tell you what you're doing is wrong. And it's, trying to pull some humanity out of him a little bit here when he's very much, like you said, straightforward. Like, I know I'm the smartest guy in the room and what I'm doing is right and all of this stuff. And, just kind of very inhumane with the way he does things and very inhumane in the way he treats, Frankenstein's monster here, the creature, like very inhumane, and it gets pointed out. And then, he eventually breaks free and you kind of get the story to kind of turn on its head a little bit where like Victor's just, he becomes obsessed with killing his own creation here, where he's trying to stop the creature, but has next to no success at that because, the creature has this ability to regenerate himself, and he doesn't get stopped easily. He's basically immortal. Like, you're trying to kill an unkillable creature, and it doesn't exactly go well for you. But it's fun, man. I really think it got better in the back half of the film, where it got to the creature's point of view, and you got to see the journey that it went on to, becoming a friend to the old man and his family, and, gaining that knowledge and reading it. One of the really funny, like, human moments that the creature has is when he's done reading all of the books that the man has, and he's just like, is this all the books that there is? Because he doesn't know any. He's just like, and the guy was just like, yeah, there's a couple more out there. Just like give him a little bit of hope to continue his education. But it was a really funny moment in there that was very lighthearted moments in this, because it's a very dark and gritty and gruesome movie in a lot of ways. But it was just a little bit of levity in there that made me laugh. It was a fun moment.
He guess it definitely takes a shift, like when you get to that point where the creature has escaped and you go to his perspective on things, where he's telling his side of it. It almost feels like a different movie in a way, because it's slower paced, and you have the creature kind of hiding out and figuring out and watching other humans and trying to see like how they act and how they are. And of course he gets attacked as well. And you get that, as you said, it's almost adding some of the monster verse into it, because you give him these more regenerative powers that he's like pretty much unable to be killed, that he can heal his wounds and everything else. So it adds that monster verse side into it there. But yeah, you get more. It's about trying to show, well, is a creature always a creature? Are we looking at it in the wrong way, that you instantly just want to grab your pitchforks and your torches and go after and kill it without even really knowing? Because that's kind of how Victor was. Like, he created this creature and he was so happy about it, but then he sees that it's having trouble of really being able to speak and learn and kind of adapt and move on. So he gets frustrated and angry because he almost feels like it's a failure, because he's not
evolving,
walking, talking, regular human being, and he's chaining him up and he's treating him like a prisoner and not treating him like a human. And that really escalates and causes a lot of the problems there. But then you get to see that, well, it's taking a bit more time, but you're starting to get that humanity in the creature, and you're starting to see that he's able to start thinking and processing, and you're not just getting this out of control creature that's just maiming and killing everyone and everything, that there's a reason why he attacks. And if he's being attacked, he's going to, defend himself. Sure. But he's starting to think and process. So that's, as I expected from Guillermo, he's trying to give more layers, more to the creature than he does to like Victor Frankenstein, because mostly Victor is straight through. Like, he's just, from his mom's death, he's obsessed with death, and he cares about death more than life, and he wants to solve the problem of death. But the creature is just trying to figure out, how do I live? How do I be? Like, what am I? Right. How do I live this life? And yet Jacob Elordi just was a perfect guy to get because of his build and his height compared to the other actors in there. So you get that creature type of just look to him, because he is so much bigger than everybody else. And I'm a little mixed on the makeup with it. Like, it looks good, but it's also like, the purplish outlines of the muscles and everything else. Like, I get why it's in there, but at times it looks like a costume more than like his skin, until he really starts healing and you're seeing him look a little more humanous, and it gets good. But early on it looks like, well, you just drew all over his body, which in a way it was, but it did look a little off-putting with the color palette. Like, I get what he was doing with it, but the color palette threw me off just a little bit with how he originally looked, with when you're trying to make it look like this is his skin, this is his body, these are his muscles and everything else. It almost looked a little more cartoonish than like realistic.
This is where your design background's coming. I can hear you talking in works. I can hear you talking in work speak right now, and I'm trying really hard not to laugh at you when you do it.
You used the wrong hex code on
right,
that purple.
Yeah,
it should have been
a
darker
waiting
hue.
For you to hit that, # CO4F or whatever.
Pantone colors. Come on.
Yeah, just like, come on. But just like the palette color, it's wrong. Oh, wrong.
Like, I didn't dislike the design, but at times for me, being a designer, I'm looking at it, it looked a little too unnatural, as in, like, I can tell that's a costume and a suit and prosthetics and stuff put on him.
Yeah, you're just thinking about it practically in a very unpractical way, which I appreciate. But I digress. I don't disagree with you, though. I think it took a little bit to get into it, but man, I still, like, I'm more forgiving of that just because of how solid the story is. Like, the story is amazing. Like, they do a really great job of adding heart and layer and depth to this inherently violent creature, and you get more of that depth, you get more of the intelligence, you get more of an evolution for that character throughout the story as he's learning to become more humane, and he gets to that, he becomes more human as time goes on, and he kind of, it's a really fun take. It's basically like, it's almost the equivalent of the Hulk becoming Smart Hulk in real time. Saying, like, very, very similar to that, right? Like, because he has this freakish strength that is just unmatched by anything you could see, and he starts gaining that empathy, he starts gaining the desire to fit in, where more of the human element starts to take over for him, and it's a really fun journey that he goes on in the movie. And it's a long movie. Like, I didn't realize it was going to be as long of a runtime as it was. It's over 2.5 hours. Like, it's a 2.5 hour movie, but it doesn't really at any point feel like it drags on either, because you get the duality of the two halves of the story, right? You get the first half, Victor half, and then you get the creature side of things. And it's really cool how they kept coming back from, like, a single point in time to branch out and tell the story of how we got there. And that's kind of where it goes from, because, like you said, you get the setup for the end of the movie at the beginning of the movie, right? Where you get the ship of people, and this all stems from a boat being stuck in an iceberg to try to get out and get back into the sea, right? And that's kind of the whole crux of it, to bring these elements all together. And you're telling a story on a boat about things that have already happened. And it's a really fun way of telling the story, because it's like, okay, now we got here, but how did we get here? Like, I really like how that was set up as well, and it's just fun, man. I'd fun watching this.
That's what I love about Del Toro, is his practicalness when it comes to, like, even though I nitpicked a little bit of the monster design, it evolved and got better, and I could see what he was doing. At first, it was a little like his skin almost looks too bright, but as you see his healing and you see things changing, that it works really well. But he also built an entire ship, because he called it a character, that this is an important part, and if we have the ship being CGI, then you're not going to really appreciate as much. For the bits and scenes that were in there, like, it plays an important part, but it's not a very long sequence when you put all the time together of the ship. But they built a full ship to be able to film it on. But everything, like Victor's castle, the tower that he uses, is, that kind of courtroom scene where he's being talked about, like, there's so much brilliant set design, practical set design, where everything looked, and the costume design, there's hints of Beautiful. Like down Elizabeth's spine, you could see the threads that make it look like a spinal column, and there's hints within all the characters' clothing and designs that has something that's a little connecting to the world that they're in, and just really brilliant practical set and clothing and other designs that really kept you in this world and this universe. And even when you get to the infamous, lightning rod towers and everything, you felt it and you saw it, and it looked practical and real how you were doing it all. And he's just a master of being able to take the Gothic and taking this look at, like, creatures, but you actually feel more sympathetic to the creature by the end of his stories because you're seeing them from a different angle. And like I said, it's authentic to the Frankenstein story in the bones of it, but he changes plenty of it. There's even, which I don't want to spoil too much here, but there's a big change between Victor, Elizabeth, and the monster of how things play out there, that they change, one big thing that happens there, because you're supposed to be seeing Victor is the, everyone for the longest time, when you think about Frankenstein, that Frankenstein was a monster. No, it was always the doctor. Yeah. But in a way, yes, he is the monster. And it kind of tied those threads together really well. And I mean, you can nitpick about changing some core things, but the story itself changed. Like when it was originally written, a decent amount of Elizabeth stuff was, I think she was adopted and supposed to be a cousin, but they changed that to that she was just straight adopted in like the 30s and stuff. So the story itself and publications has changed. So I'm not as nitpicky as him in making some of these changes that works for the type of Frankenstein story, of creature story that he was trying to tell. Yeah. And I think he was pretty well successful with that.
Yeah, and he's just brilliant framing all of that, and he's just such a good visual storyteller, just as well as he is a practical dialogue storyteller, right? Like he really has a way of bringing those elements to life on film in a way that really does transport you into the world that you're going into, and you get that full immersive experience. At the end of the day, I'm bummed that we didn't get to see this in theaters, because I think it would have been awesome in theaters. Like I have a kind of makeshift surround sound in my house, and I was watching it, and it felt neat, but it would have felt, I think, even better in the theater, getting that full sound immersion as well as the visual immersion that you get from it. And I really wish we could have gotten that experience, but man, it was really good for what we've got. And man, just getting Guillermo del Toro on a Netflix movie is insane, because he's just such a phenomenal director and storyteller, and just about everything he's ever touched has been brilliant, in my opinion. He's one of my favorite directors, and getting his take on this and just diving into it and telling it in the way that only he can, just fantastic job doing that, in my opinion. And it's one of my more favorite takes on this genre outside of the old classic black and white, Frankenstein type movies and stuff. This is one of the better takes I've seen on it, and some phenomenal performances. Like I said, Oscar Isaac was phenomenal as Victor. Jacob Elordi was incredible. It really must suck to be just incredibly handsome at 6'5". That's insane, but he does phenomenal as the creature too. Like he's so good in this. I really think he's probably the star of this movie. Really, at the end of it, was just an incredible performance by him.
And if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, you get a few Game of Thrones actors in here playing a few different roles, which they were, really fantastic in that. But yeah, Guillermo is just such a unique storyteller with things, because he has a different view of the world, of these stories that he's telling, that you could go in and just do a straight adaptation of, Mary Shelley's book, but you're getting a unique look from kind of the more of the creature, and you're getting that, and I appreciate that. Like, yeah, Frankenstein's been done in so many different ways, from the MonsterVerse to the straight adaptations to TV, and you also got like Young Frankenstein, which is beloved by a lot of people, of doing a comedic take of the monster. And I'm always will have Putting on the Ritz stuck in my head of Frankenstein saying Putting on the Ritz and everything. But it's just he's such a unique storyteller, and the way he does it, like Pan's Labyrinth and other things he's done, is just such a unique way. I want that third Hellboy movie to come out, because I want to see him finish what he started with the first two. But he's a brilliant director and storyteller, because of he goes for the heart and the soul and looks for those different angles that you may not always get with those other adaptations. And I was excited when I heard he was doing Frankenstein, and it didn't let me down.
Yeah, for sure. It's a phenomenally well-done movie that I will go back and revisit. This is going to probably be in my Halloween rotation moving forward. Just a fantastic movie that it doesn't even necessarily need to be Halloween time when I watch it, but coming out around this time was very fitting for sure, too.
Yeah, so Frankenstein is a fantastic adaptation by Guillermo del Toro. He gets at the heart and the soul of the creature and the doctor, and flips a few things on its head. There's a few characters and a few beats that it could either be shortened or they didn't exactly need in here. But I think overall he was very successful in getting to the heart and the soul of the story of the creature, of just kind of how the doctor may be more of the creature than the creature is, and getting to see that heart and humanity of the monster. I'm giving it a solid 8 is with this one, as I did with Predator Badlands, because I think it was done in such a brilliant way. Practical effects, great sound design, great costume design that all tied to each other. Jacob Elordi was great as the creature, of giving us that heart and humanity, while Oscar Isaac gave us another brilliant performance of playing a doctor who cares more about death than he does with life. And I think Mia Goth was a good addition there as Elizabeth, who didn't get as much as you maybe would hoped, but she is the core between the creature and Victor, and I think it all came together really well.
Yeah, I'm going to give it just a slightly better grade. I'm giving it an 8.5, and that's kind of where I landed on it. I love Guillermo del Toro. He's an instant upgrade to almost any type of story you could tell. But what I really love is the immersive experience that you get in his films. And this is on full display here too. So you get just this dive into this world and the sets like you talked about, and the brutality that it's not afraid to get brutal when it needs to, and gets that heart and that warmth and that depth of storytelling. You get a phenomenal story that's really told in two parts from two different perspectives. Like you said, you get the Victor Frankenstein half of it, you get the creature half of it, but you also get to see the creature in a more humane light as he kind of goes on his own journey of self-discovery and how he fits into this world that he never asked to be a part of. And it's a really well done visual spectacle that we get from this, with a really solid story to go along with it. Like you said, it's not a perfect movie by any means, but it's still a really, really good offering, because where it has some minor things that are, you can kind of be nitpicky about it, overall it's a phenomenal story, worth your time to go and watch, and carve out the time to watch it. It's really good. If you're into these types of stories, you don't have to be into the monster-y type stories, but it tells it in a way that's palatable on so many levels for people that I think a lot of people will get enjoyment out of it. It's like, we've already talked about the phenomenal performances in it too, and just everyone did such a good job in making this story that I have to land on 8.5. It's slightly better than Predator Badlands in my opinion. It's a more complete movie in my opinion. Like,
oh yeah, it's hard to compare the two, even though I gave it an 8, the same as I did Predator Badlands. It's two different things, because Predator Badlands was about the fun journey and rewatchability, while this one was about the depth and the acting prowess and the practical sets, and just how they created this world that you really wanted to thrive in. So it's like, I gave them both 8s, but they're two very different 8s.
Sure. And just, man, Guillermo del Toro is so good, man. I was excited when he got into this, because he does these types of films really well, and you could tell he really sunk his teeth into this one, and it was, what he gave us was a really phenomenal film that glad we watched, and definitely has a high rewatchability for me.
Yeah, so Frankenstein is out on Netflix now. Check it out. If you got to see it in theaters, come let us know, because we were willing to see. I saw some stills of people in IMAX seeing it on the IMAX screen. We wished we could have got it around here, but you can watch it anytime on Netflix, and I hope you check out both of these. I think this was a really good week of solid films that give you two really distinct different takes and looks on these stories, because they're both taking classic characters and telling them in a different way.
Yeah, and it's two kind of stories turned on their heads from what we're used to seeing a little bit, and I love that, and I love people that aren't afraid to take risks, and I love it even more when those risks pay off. I think they did phenomenal jobs in both of these. Like, Dan Trachtenberg and Guillermo del Toro are two really solid directors who take these stories and give us great things out of them. So hats off to both. These were two really, really good films, and a really good week for story watching for us, man. We got blessed with two really good movies this week. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, because you got the Predator turned into a protagonist and turned into a hero, and then you also got the creatures not exactly turned into a hero, but you get to see more of the humanity and the heart, and that there could be goodness there, and it's not just an out-of-control creature wanting to kill and maim. And we didn't really talk about it. It's not really horror. Like, if you're going in expecting Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein to be horror, it's got some horror elements to it because of the gore and, you know, the bodies and dismemberment and other stuff he's doing, but it's not about the horror. It's not about trying to scare you or frighten you with anything. It's actually trying to get you to one, look at how far science can go when stepping over bounds, but also not judging everything as it is, like, oh, it's just a big scary creature, let's kill it with fire. We know there's actually some humanity and some heart behind it. So there's a lot more depth than just straight up trying to do a horror version of Frankenstein.
Yeah, for sure. He did a phenomenal job. And like I said, just taking that story and kind of turning it on its head a little bit and giving us a different take on it to something that you're so used to it being one way. And he makes it some slight alterations that gave us something really special. And I was glad we got to, check it out and talk about it this week for sure.
And I capped off my entertainment this week because, as I've mentioned, last week I started finally going on the journey with my oldest daughter of watching Lord of the Rings. So we watched the Two Towers. She got to see the Battles of Helm's Deep. And, we went through that, and she really enjoyed it and liked it and everything else. So, like, we've got one more to go. We got Return of the King. And I'm like, well, you basically got the best movie. Like, both of these have been phenomenal, but you got the best movie waiting for you ahead here. But, probably going to have to skip a week on that because it's her birthday coming up and she's got her friends coming over. I might just force all of her friends to watch Return of the King. Like, it's your birthday, but we're watching Return of the King.
Yeah, we're doing something for Dad today. I think it's about you, it's about me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm excited to see what she thinks about that one because make no bones about it. It's my favorite movie of all time. I'm really excited to see what she thinks. And I'm glad she's enjoying it so far.
It's been fun to go back and rewatching with her and having her see it for the first time because she hasn't read the books or anything, so she's experiencing this world. She's big into D&D and everything, but getting her to experience this world of Lord of the Rings and everything else, which I did have to warn her because she's not very big on spiders, that, well, there's going to be some sequences in the third movie here that you may not like too well. But yeah, it was really fun to have the Two Towers with her, having Frankenstein, having Predator. Like,
it's a good week.
3 different films that are vastly different, but they all do what they try to do so extremely well.
Yeah, that's fun. I'm excited to see her continue on that journey for sure because those movies are so good, man. And I'm glad she's finally getting around to watching them, and you get to have that moment with her. That's a ton of fun, man. I'm happy for that.
Yeah, so our next episode will be coming to you in 2 weeks. We'll be back then with our reviews for Wicked for Good and The Running Man. So, Josh has a very unearned vacation to go on here. He's not allowed to leave the dungeon, but apparently he's going to escape and go out on an adventure. But yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks with potentially one of the biggest films of the year with Wicked for Good, and so one that we've been looking for a while because you've got Glenn Powell stepping into the Arnold Schwarzenegger role that, we know that his Running Man was quite different from the book, and this is looking quite different from that adaptation, but it seems like Edgar Wright was potentially the right person to take on the Running Man.
I see what you did there when you said Edgar Wright was the right guy. So it's dad jokes for days, but yeah, these are 2 movies that I'm super stoked to be reviewing. I've no way of hiding my love for Wicked the musical, and I love the first one with Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. Did you get a chance to watch the Wicked special that was on NBC the other day?
We are going to watch it today, so after the recording and I've got everything done, we're watching it today.
You are in for a treat. I want to hear your takes on that because they do a couple elements of the songs that are coming up in the movie. And then you get a little tiny sneak peek of the 2 original songs that they're doing for it. One, obviously, from each of them. Mm-hmm. So you get a Cynthia Erivo song, you get an Ariana Grande song that they both get to have incorporated into this one, and then you get some of the classics, too. It's a really fun special. If you haven't checked it out, it is on Peacock now, so go check it out before you go see the new Wicked movie. Ton of fun, a really cool special that they got to do. It was a really cool one. I think you guys will get a kick out of it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that and looking forward to the movie because anybody who knows the play knows that the second half was kind of a little bit weaker than the first half of, the play, but they've made some changes and they're doing some things differently. And we've got the first real big inclusion of Dorothy since the original Wizard of Oz. I mean, you've had the other adaptations where they've done Dorothy in an original way, but this is trying to harken back to, Judy Garland's Dorothy and everything. It's going to be really interesting to see if the changes that they made to the second half is going to make it that much better, and that maybe the second film could be the definitive version of the end of, Wicked.
Yeah, Wicked is a musical. The second half of it's still solid.
Yeah,
it has more iconic songs in the first half, but there's some really, really, really good songs in the second half of the play as well. And it's a really fun story and kind of takes what you know about the Wizard of Oz and kind of tweaks it to match the story they're telling here in a really fun way of tying it together. Won't spoil it if you've never seen the musical, but a ton of fun. Definitely one looking forward to. And then The Running Man, like I didn't get to touch on it, but we've been seeing that trailer for what feels like forever just because we go to the movies so often. Still, every time I see the trailer, it's not one of those, like, I really can't wait for this movie to come out so I can stop seeing the trailer for it. I'm still pumped to go check that one out.
It looks like a ton of fun.
Looks like it's just going to be a nonstop action ride for 90 minutes to 2 hours or however long this film's going to be, and I'm really excited for that. Glenn Powell is great, and that film looks like it's going to be a ton of fun to sit through, and I'm excited. I'm a little bummed that, you know, it lines up with me being out of town, so, like, this would be what we were doing next week that was talking about this movie, but we get to come back and talk about it in 2 weeks. I'm really excited about that for sure.
Yeah, like Glenn Powell's just in everything, doing everything. He's definitely becoming the next big action leading man, like some talking like he's like the next Tom Cruise, like he's in everything, doing everything. But he's also going to, which I just saw an interview that he was doing for the film here, is that he's going back and getting a degree fully at Texas.
Love it.
So he's got all these films and everything else he's doing, and he's taking classes at the same time. And it was like Josh Brolin looked at him like, how in the world do you have time to do this? Because you're just working nonstop and you're also going to school. He's like, yeah.
Well, it's crazy you got that going on, and then just like what we've got coming up content wise, you know what I mean? Like, we're coming back in 2 weeks. The next time we do an episode, it'll be time for Stranger Things season 5 as well.
Yeah.
And I do have to end by saying this: we got GTA 6 delayed until next November. We will have gotten the entire run of Stranger Things before we've gotten GTA 6.
Which took like 9 years.
Yes, so just think about that. All the running jokes of we get this before we get GTA 6. The entire run of Stranger Things happened between the time that GTA 5 and GTA 6 was released. So take that and think about it what you will, but those kids in the movie were all genuinely kids when we hit the first season of Stranger Things. They're all adults now, which is just insane. But I saw Gaten Manzaro, who plays Dustin, and
I was going to say, he commented
on it too. He's like, I was like 11 when the game came out, and I'm an adult now. Can we get GTA 6 finally? Like, even he's on board with it. But yeah, like, give us the game already, for the love of God. I get it. Make it good, but it's just so fun to see all these things that we've gotten in between when the last one is out. The entire run of Stranger Things will have come and gone by the time we get that game.
We've already talked about the insanity of 2027. GTA 6 was moved to November 2026. If it gets another delay, it's going to 2027. Could you have potentially one of the biggest video games of all time of how they're talking about it, because they've put rumored over $1 billion into creating this game? If that falls into 2027 with the stacked theatrical release we have, like, we're just going to be living in our screens for that year.
All right, I got a plan. Just go with me on this. We win the lottery and we retire, then we have time for everything.
Retire by the end of 2026, so we can just watch and do everything.
Somebody go to the future and give me these lottery numbers. We'll work something out. We can retire, and then we can just watch all of these things and just live to talk about them. I would love nothing more, because that might be how the only way we get through 2027 at this point.
Yeah, it's insanely stacked year, and like GTA 6 is right on that bubble, and November 19th, 2026. Like, yeah, let's see if it sticks to that, because this is the third time it's been moved, because it was originally late this year, and then it moved to summer of next year. Now it's winter of next year, so yeah, one more delay and it makes 2027 even more insane, because if you don't really play video games, you don't know the stratosphere that Grand Theft Auto has been in, especially since the last few. Like, it's one of the most anticipated, highest selling game series of all time. Like, it is a gigantic series, and this one, along with like Elder Scrolls 6, are like some of the most anticipated. And like, we've had one trailer of Elder Scrolls 6 in like 7 years.
Yeah.
And so we've potentially got one of the biggest video games ever to be put out if they do it right. The trailer looks fantastic that they put out, but how much is going to change in basically a year from now before they put that out? Like, if that falls to 2027, it's just going to be an insane year.
Game over for us, quite literally. But yeah, man, it's a lot to look forward to. I'm excited about that. I'm excited. I'm thankful that, we have a little bit of flexibility. I can go on my vacation because it's been a hot minute, but bummed that we'll get a week off, but we'll come back ready and recharged in 2 weeks and ready to dive in and talk about those two movies. I'm very excited for Wicked and The Running Man. That's going to be a lot of fun.
But that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio room on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.